Hello, everyone. My name's Ken. I'm the manager at Tower Hamlets Cemetery Park. So if we can move on to the next slide, please. So with the lockdown, I found lots of people were exploring and maybe spending more time looking at more detail in close to where they lived, and people were cooking more. And, with that comes kind of thinking about recipes and all that kind of stuff. And we found wild food was really popular here in the cemetery park. Lots of people were coming in and talking to us about plants, and we do a lot of foraging events anyway because they're very popular. It's a great way for us to celebrate plants with people. If I do a botany tour, no one turns up. If I do a wild food tour, and they sell out, and I've got a waiting list. So we all kind of are driven by our stomachs, and we're kind of interested in where our food comes from and the impact of food miles and all that kind of stuff. So foraging is not going to replace, I've made some statements there, it's not going to replace your regular shop, but what it does do is get you interacting and think differently about your open spaces, getting to know them intimately and in a more interesting way, and kind of connecting with spaces very differently, which is kind of really good for our kind of mental and physical well-being by getting us out there and getting us looking. So just a few thoughts about that. But if we can move on to the next slide, we will leap into some widely found wild food. So go to the next one, please. Excellent. So the very common stinging nettle. So I've chosen 3 plants for 3 minutes that you should find anywhere you walk in London. So the very common stinging nettle with its lovely kind of serrated leaves, and if you've looked at them closely, you would have seen these little needles on them, which is suggested where the nettle name comes from, really kind of referring to the needles on the leaves. They love rich soil. You may not know that they're wind pollinated, so you have male-female plants. And so they have these dangly catkins, and the males shed the pollen and the females ripen the seed. But if you see nettles, things that look like nettles, they're dead nettles, and they will often have a flower, or they will always have a flower that attracts an insect. So I'm thinking of things like black horehound, red dead nettle, white dead nettle. So these are nettle mimics. And thankfully, if you make a mistake with your ID, they're both edible, both the stinging nettle and the dead nettle. So always best to pick the green tops, wear gloves if you're not confident, but those of you who love Shakespeare may have read in Henry IV, Shakespeare wrote about grasping the nettle as a way of dealing with the problem. So grip them firmly, and you can limit the chance of getting stung. But lots of fun things can be done with this. You can eat it raw, really good fancy trick. Make that leaf really tiny and as small as you can. Any bruising and bashing of the plant deactivates those stinging hairs, and pop that in your mouth, and you will have a treat that tastes something like a runner bean. So eat them raw, or you can cook them like spinach. You can pop them in the oven with some oil and your favorite seasoning, or put them in some, or deep fry them and make some kind of crisps. You can turn them into pesto spinach, and I'm a big fan of nettle soup. And if you regularly pick your nettle patch and prevent it from flowering, in London, you can pretty much enjoy nettles all year round. And obviously they're great for wildlife. Over 100 species of invertebrates live all or part of their life on a nettle. The one most people might be familiar with is the caterpillars of the peacock. Around kind of last month, these lovely black spiky caterpillars. So next one, yes, we can move on. So ribwort plantain, found absolutely everywhere. Those lovely seed heads, if you pick them and eat them, they will taste like a mushroom, and you can use those to make a nice alternative to mushroom stock. Leaves are edible. They've got those lovely parallel veins, quite distinctive. So raw or cooked. Always best to pick the leaves from the center because it tends to grow a bit like a fountain. So all the fresh growth in the middle, and then the older leaves are out at the edge. So lots of fun things. You can even collect the seeds after flowering, ground them up, and use them in baking. And if you confuse it with any of the other plantains like greater or common plantain, not a problem because they're edible too. I would recommend trying a flower head. It is weird eating something that tastes like a raw mushroom. So next one. Common mallow. You'll see this on lots of kinds of bits of street side and stuff. Those lovely kind of frilly edged pentagon shaped leaves and those lovely pink flowers. This time of year, there will be flowers, but you should start to see these disc-shaped seeds, or nutlets as they're called, and sometimes they're called cheeses as well, and they're a lovely kind of wayside snack. Pick them kind of green, and off you go. Leaves cooked like spinach, make a great maloikia alternative to jute mallow. If you don't know what maloikia is, kind of green soup with garlic, coriander, tomato soup, tomato sauce in your favourite stock, and the flowers make a wonderful splash of colour in your salad. So, and deep fry the leaves to make a nice wafer crisps. They puff like a prawn cracker. So there we go. And there's some ways to get in touch with us. We're all over social network. Just tap in FOTHCP, Friends of Tower Hamlets Cemetery Park.